All right, guys. So today we're going to talk about the reading that was assigned on Friday, which is the first section in chapter 2 in the textbook. So with that one, remember that units in the textbook are actually chapters. It's just something they call it to annoy me. No, my computer's frozen. Yay. There we go. Okay. All right, so with this first section, I normally assign it with a different section, but I kind of wanted to slow things down for you guys a little bit, let you guys catch a breath, so that we could be ready to go in the next section that I'm assigning today, which is a little bit more involved. So for today, I'm going to talk to you about the need for psychological science. And there are two things that they talk about in the book that are sort of the antithesis of thinking scientifically. And the first one is hindsight bias. So hindsight bias is basically that sort of that tendency that we have after we've learned some information to go, oh, I already knew that. Or, of course, you know, those types of things. So more or less, it's the tendency to believe after learning an outcome that one would have foreseen it. I knew that all along. Oh, I could have seen that coming a mile away. Those types of things. And then the textbook kind of has this fun little true or false quiz. This is on page 21, and it just sort of illustrates hindsight bias. For example, if you want to teach a habit that persists, reward the desired behavior every time, not just intermittently. Actually, those are two different ways to teach a habit. And the one that is, it's faster if you reward every time. It's slower if you do it intermittently, but the one that lasts the longest after you've taught is the intermittent one. You just have to be patient, kind of have a method to it. Let's see, get another one. Most abused children do not become abusive adults. That is true. I think, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. Lie detection tests often lie. That is true. And then there's are your answers. The answers are also in the textbook. It's just, again, a fun illustration of things like that. You know, how do we know what we know about the psychology of the human mind? How much can we trust what we've learned in psychology as a science? Those are very important. So another thing that can hinder the psychological process is overconfidence. So overconfidence is the tendency that we have to think that we know more than we do. And sometimes that can have really bad results, and sometimes it just can hinder true psychological research or progress in the study of psychology or any science, really. So the point to remember really is that hindsight bias and overconfidence lead us to overestimate our intuition. Intuition is a very important thing of all animals. Humans have it, and it's definitely got value, but it's not the end-all be-all of what we know. We can't just rely on our intuition. We have to look at all sources of information. Scientific inquiry can help us sift reality from illusion and really get to what the best answer is to a problem, or the best explanation is to something. So the thing that underlies all science or all scientific inquiry really is this curiosity, this passion that people have to explore and understand without misleading others or being misled. Um, so, and what we found is that when we are curious and open to looking for more information or further information or an alternate explanation, we really do get the best answer. Some things that people have come up with that people thought were crazy, like the earth being round, we wound up having so much evidence to support that idea that people had to get on board or at least consider it. And then there's other ideas that sounded perfectly plausible. Ice cream causes polio. People used to believe that because at the same time that ice cream sales would increase, you'd see more cases of polio in children. That turned out not to be the reason why people were contracting polio. But without science, it's kind of hard to get to the actual explanation. And then if you can't get to the actual explanation, how can you help anyone? It's really important that you're open to new ideas and new truths, and that just because you've learned something, you've seen overwhelming evidence to that, that new information might not present itself to you that will ask you to adjust your thinking or change your opinion. You've really got to learn how to be savvy consumers of information and be open to other ideas, but be cautious about how much weight you put on those ideas. Which brings me to the next thing is skepticism. So when someone gives you information or presents you with their side of the story or explanation for something, and it might sound great. It might say, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But a lot of times, and you see this a lot in the media and political situations, a lot of times there's other plausible explanations. So you want to take information that you get and think critically about it. Just test it. Does it fit? Is there other information that supports it? Is there other information available that I wasn't presented with that might refute it? That keeps you from being gullible, really. Like, and we've all done it. Oh, that sounds great. That sounds like the best plan, or I can't believe that happened. How on earth? Well, the reason why that's so outrageous is because there's another explanation for that. Sometimes. And that leads me to the final part of scientific inquiry, which is skepticism. Humility. Sorry. You got to be open-minded and understand that we're all vulnerable to error. We are, our mentors are, our friends are, our people we don't agree with are. Everyone's open to error. Everyone's prone to that every now and then. But if you keep an open mind about that, then you really are, or if you kind of have that degree of humility, then you're better prepared to adjust your perspective if the evidence calls for it. Historians of science tell us that these three attitudes, curiosity, skepticism, and humility, helped make modern science possible, and they're really what keep modern science going, and they really are the cornerstones of psychology, of the study of psychological science. As a community, scientists check and recheck each other's findings and conclusions, and if you're worth it as a scholar or a scientist, then you're prepared to have someone check and recheck your work or ask you questions about your work, or not criticize, but call to light any weaknesses that they might see in your findings. And good scholars and good scientists are able to do that with their, have those conversations or have those thoughts for themselves at least. It's really important to think critically just as a person, but very important to think critically as a scientist and as a psychologist. You got to use smart thinking, which involves 4 elements. You need to examine assumptions, not just your assumptions, but the assumptions that you're confronted with or the assumptions that people share with you. Discern hidden values. Trying to think how to explain this one. Like, is there, you know, more weight to this than meets the eye? You know, like someone says, oh, it's fine because such and such. Well, what do you mean it's fine? You know, or whatever. Evaluate evidence. Well, where did you get that idea from? Is there anything else about that situation that might change the conclusion that came from that evidence? And assess those conclusions. Is that the best explanation, or is there some more information that needs to be considered? All right, so that's it for today. After today, your reading for today involves how psychologists ask and answer questions. So there's a lot about research methods here. You're going to go into the scientific method. You're going to go into operational definitions, replications, case studies, surveys, naturalistic observations, the difference between correlation and experimentation. And so make sure that you spend some time with that section, read it carefully, and then spend some time practicing the vocabulary, either by making your own handwritten flashcards or reviewing the ones that I placed on Quizlet. It definitely will pay off. There's a lot of information here, and there's a lot of information that they like to incorporate, especially in the FRQs. You will definitely see, and pretty much every year there's an FRQ that involves something to do with research. So make sure you take it seriously. All right, let me know if you run into any questions or problems as you do your work, and take care.